Okay, so this video is about purpose and structure. English 1A, Module 4.2. Welcome back. And here we go again. More questions. Maybe it is a good thing only 30 of you were asking questions in each class. Okay, so here we go. Lecture 4. When you use the letters of the alphabet, what were they for? Is it just a template or do they have a purpose? So for me, the purpose is to identify the parts of an essay. And when you do your completion check next week for editing, you're going to have to use the letters to show me that you have each part. I am also uploading the SOAP packet, and that actually has the boxes in the PDF form that you can download, follow along with. So that will be useful. Shout out to one of my students who made those copies for us. But yeah, they have a purpose because I need to make sure that before I start editing, my essay is complete, and completion is dependent on all of the parts to the essay being there. Would this be the exact format expectation you're looking for in the draft? Absolutely. I'm looking for you to use the template. I want to see that you have the parts. I want to see they're in the right order. I want to see they're the right length, not too long, not too short. I want to see that you're using quotation and cited evidence. I want to see that you're doing it correctly. And once you know the rules to the game, you can kind of loosen it up and do your own version of it. But for this beginning part, yes, I'm expecting this for the first draft, for the final draft, for the 5th, 6th, 7th draft, whatever essay you write for me. And if you're smart, any essay you write for anybody for the rest of your life, at least through the BA, this will ensure your A's, providing you have correct sentence structure and sentence diversity with your patterns. In reference to Lecture 4, at the end of the process, you state to provide a new transition at the end of the paper. So this can add a new idea. So can this new idea be anything correlating to your main topic? Is there a certain technique for the last sentence that you want us to follow? Yeah, the idea of the puzzle, right? So keeping it very simple. I'm going to write another essay. You'll notice that each one of these essays I'm writing, I'm modeling the answers to this essay prompt, explaining exactly how to do it. So let's say the question is, how or why is being an educated member of one society important? And I'm going to say, to be a driving member of society, you need to know. So drivers must know the laws, the car, and the route. Sounds simple enough, right? There's my triangle. Drivers, the knowledge is the laws, the car, and the route. Are you all good with that? Now, I'm only asking you to do a 5-paragraph essay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. My title is going to be Finding Nemo. Don't know where that came from, just reminded me of driving. And found him at Denny's is the last line of my essay, right? Title, reference. Finding Nemo, found Nemo at Denny's. The next thing we should see is the grabber. And I'm going to say a fact that many young people today do not have their driver's license at 16. They wait until 18. Now your grabber is 3 to 5 sentences, so I'm going to write. Now if I had the template in front of me, I would not start with the grabber, right? I would start with the thesis. My thesis is drivers need to know the laws, the car, the route. That's number 1. Number 2 is topic sentence number 1, laws. Topic sentence number 2, cars. Topic sentence number 3, route. Number 4 is the transitions, okay? So my transitions are down here, and they are directly from laws to car and car to route. So besides knowing the laws, you need to know the car, and besides knowing the car, you need to know the route, right? And this is where the colors of the puzzle. So let's say laws are blue. So this is a blue paragraph. And let's say and that the car is pink. So this is a pink paragraph. And let's say that the route is green. And that's a green paragraph, okay? So my thesis, frankly, is blue, pink, and green. Hope I don't get ink on my couch. My transition is car to, oh, sorry. My transition is laws to car. From blue to pink, transition. My next transition is car, pink, to route. Even if you have a car, if you don't have a route, you're not driving anywhere. And then I'm going to talk about routes, right? Street signs, GPS, traffic, one way versus freeway, speed limit, school zones, whatever it is. How do we get from College of the Desert to Denny's so we can find Nemo? I do not have a transition at the end of this third paragraph because there is no new topic sentence coming. But absolutely, these transitions, they go according to your thesis, according to that triangle. If you have your triangle, you know your thesis, your topic sentences, and your transitional sentences in advance. Do we still incorporate the perfect paragraph format? Yes, 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 yes. Any paragraph, you should be writing perfect paragraph. Now, a perfect paragraph should not be over 20 sentences. And if you have a lot to say, it makes sense to have 2 paragraphs. Perhaps I do laws in California and driving laws in Europe, and then I transition to different kinds of cars in California versus Europe. That's fine. My transition would be at the bottom of the second paragraph if that's the case, right? You all see what I just did? But the perfect paragraph is how you write paragraphs all of the time, academically speaking, in college. If you're in a psych class or public safety class and they want shorter paragraphs, you simply break it up at the 1/3 or the 2/3 mark, but the template stays the same. Okay? Remember, topic sentences do not equal number of paragraphs. Topic sentences are determined by that thesis. And just like a puzzle, and I'll move it in real close, guys. Just like a puzzle, if I'm looking for a piece here, it's going to be half blue, half pink. That's how I know the missing piece, right? If I have a transition between those 2 pieces, well, that piece is going to be half pink, half green. That's what we're looking for. They're called transitions. So when I refer to the pieces of the puzzle, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, next one. It says, for paragraphing, do I always follow the 0.75 rule, or it's a guideline? It's a guideline. Some paragraphs might be a full page and some paragraphs might only be a half a page. But in general, a well-developed perfect paragraph is about 3/4 of a page, and visually it's 2 hands. So if your perfect paragraph is about 2 hands, you know that you have the right amount of detail. If it's more than that, you probably have too much. Are these principles always applied to our essay? Good writing, yes. A writers, yes. Money-making writers, yes. So yes, if you want to be successful in your writing and do it quickly with guaranteed product, then absolutely. Is there something that makes a regular grabber or a grabber echo different from another? I don't even actually understand the question. Like, are you asking if a question is different than a statement? Of course a question is different. You shouldn't really ask a question unless you give the answer, and there is definitely better and worse ways to do that. I don't know why you would ask your audience something and take the chance that they say no, or not interested. So I could say, why do you go to school? Or I could say, when students graduate high school, they need to decide if they want to proceed with their education. The second is definitely a more mature way of presenting information as a statement instead of a question. But there is a difference, right? Is there difference between a fact and a statistic? Well, absolutely. A fact is a known truth based on experience, observation, and measurement. The desert is hot in the summer is fact. A statistic is that the desert maxed out at 127 in August. Okay, now we have a specific number and it has to come with a source because it's data. But yes, there are differences, and the big difference is which one you choose. You're choosing them according to your audience. Kids like sarcasm, they're not too crazy about statistics. Adults prefer statistics. Lawmakers, if I want them to have empathy, maybe I'm going to tell them a story instead of give them a statistic, but I definitely would not be sarcastic, right? So who I'm speaking to determines which grabber I use, and yes, there is a difference between them. Can you explain the topic for the essay in a different way? Well, hopefully through the course of these 5 lectures that I've been videotaping now for the last 5 hours, I have explained it differently. I'm asking you a question. What knowledge does a person need within a society? Is it important? Does it matter? Why or why not? And then when you go to 4.4 and you look at the thesis examples, I'm looking for one of 2 kinds of thesis statements. The first kind of thesis statement is saying these members of society own this kind of knowledge and it's useful because. The second kind of thesis says this kind of society needs a certain knowledge because. I think I give you 3 different options. I absolutely want you to use one of my structures so that I see you know how. Consider this me teaching you how to hold a bat, or how to hold a golf club, or how to do a correct handstand. I'm looking for a very specific technique for a purpose, and when we circle back to it in week 10, this information is going to matter a lot. In our essay, should we mention a counter opinion? We've kind of touched upon that in the last video. Lecture 4, can you clarify or explain more of what it means the thesis always comes at or toward the end of the introduction, not necessarily the first paragraph? I feel like we have done that. In this essay example, the thesis is at the end of the first paragraph. If I were to grow this beyond 5 or 6 paragraphs and I had a 2 or 3 paragraph thesis, or a 10 paragraph introduction, the thesis would go at the end of the introduction, not necessarily the end of the paragraph. I actually drew an example of that in the last video. And if you need more clarification, you need to text me. Can transitions be dependent clauses with simple sentences? Absolutely. We have 3 kinds of transitions. That's going to be on your next quiz. Words, phrases, and sentences. And of course, phrases come in 2 different versions, introductory and dependent. And both of these introductory or dependent phrases can count as a transitional phrase, so long and depending on where it's at within the template. I understand 27 pieces with letters, but I'm confused if the letters have meaning like soap, or is it just a placeholder? For me, they're just placeholders. I do use B and double B because title and title reference need to connect, but beyond that, they're simply placeholders. I use them because 27 pieces and 26 letters of the alphabet plus 1 was an easy math. 14, I understand the instruction of the essay assignment, but I don't understand the question. I'm overthinking the question, but can you break down the question further? I think I have, right? But let me spin some triangles. Now in class, I usually have the class time me to illustrate this even better. We're at 14 minutes, 37 seconds. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triangles. I'm going to say from the perspective of a mom, from the perspective of a U.S. citizen, from the perspective of a traveler, from the perspective of a dancer, from the perspective of a cook, And from the perspective of a surfer, knowledge matters. A mom should obtain a college degree. We did this one. Financial security, lifestyle, and cycles. A U.S. citizen needs to have a knowledge about their democracy, about voting, and about constitutional rights. A traveler should know something about customs, language, and money. A dancer needs to know the music, the footwork, and their partner. A cook has an intense knowledge of food, spices, and prep skills. And a surfer, as we said, needs to know the ocean, their equipment, and beach etiquette. I've answered the question, and by the way, that's only less than 2 minutes now. I just wrote 6 essays. The question is, what kind of society? Well, the society within a family, the society of a country, the society of the globe, the society within a dance hall, the society of kitchen cookers, and the society of surfers. What kind of knowledge? I directly ask it. Now, to the other question, then of course each one of these becomes a perfect paragraph, right? This is where my research really kicks in. I'm going to find one quote, one fact, one statistic about each one of these. And remember, my internal proof or evidence is not necessarily then about being a traveler, but it's proving that travelers need to know the customs of where they're going. It's proving that language matters. It's proving that money currency can affect where you get to go, what you spend, and what you enjoy, right? That's my perfect paragraph. I don't need to talk about traveling. I already talked about traveling in my introduction, and the future of it will be in my conclusion, okay? 6 essays there. How you answer it is not what I'm interested in. I'm looking at the structure of your essay and your ability to use the template. I want you to download the template, save as, put it on your Microsoft Word, do the first 15 first, fill in the blanks, figure out what your edges are, put soap on top, and then you backfill. Okay, next one. It says, do you recommend using self that I'm a writer? As a writer, I've not experienced. We answered that in the first video. Absolutely, yourself should be something you've experienced and you know. Be honest with it. We're not doing fiction. 16. Do the provable reasons have to be found on statistics or cases, or can we use personal experience? I think I answered that one already. I did answer that one already. Okay, let's see. When drafting a piece of writing, sometimes after the first draft, I have trouble figuring out what needs to change and how to improve besides small things. Are there any methods or guidelines that can help a person draft their work better? Weeks 5 and 6 is nothing but me teaching editing strategies. I don't even want you thinking about that yet. I'm going to teach you strategic editing. You are not going to be allowed to edit anything that I haven't told you to change, how to change, why to change it. I'm going to be very prescriptive these first 6 weeks. Yes, there are strategies you should be using. Yes, I'm going to teach them. And yes, we're going to use this first draft, whatever you come up with, as the basis for that instruction. After this week, I'm done teaching essay. After this week, I'm going to start teaching quotation, citation, and editing. That's what's coming. The framework explains what is happening before the topic, but I was wondering if you could explain the effects of the topic instead of then correlated to the pre-effects, mentioning how the topic is viewed and affecting the audience currently, and then mentioning it how it was before. Absolutely. The who, what, when, where, why, how, history, date, terms, relevant, important, interesting. You can go past, present with those conversations. You simply cannot repeat the thesis or what the essay is about. The introduction should set the conversation up, whatever you decide to choose to talk about, especially according to who your audience is, and then the thesis takes over the conversation and the essay proceeds. It says, would you recommend to choose one of the 27 purposes first? No, do it the order I said. Self, opinion, audience, and then if you don't like my purpose, pick one. Do some research about it so that you know what that purpose actually is, and then you proceed. Around 18-minute mark, you were talking about starting with a plan. Then you presented, the one that you presented was simple and understandable. Do you have a printable template? Absolutely. Like I just said, I just uploaded, and on this page, you have a copy of it, the SOAP packet. And within this whole module, under resources, you have the essay template, you have the perfect paragraph template, you have that all. So download it, print it, save it onto your computer. For our draft, should the paragraphs be color-coded? I'm a visual person, so I use color to make sure that my paragraphs are the right structure. If that helps you, great. If it doesn't, don't do it. What does the title have to do with self? What does happy birthday have to do with a birthday? Why do we put Merry Christmas on a cake in December? Would you ever consider putting Merry Christmas on a cake for somebody's birthday? The title has to do with the voice talking and the occasion that's being discussed. So that title has to connect to the self-talking and the topic being discussed intimately. And to be fair, I just did 6 essays, but let's go back to the other one. I called it Finding Nemo, and maybe in my concluding paragraph, I'm going to say that the whole purpose of Nemo was to find your bliss, to find your happiness, and to live in a world that you don't have to leave. And so that's equivalent to finding the path to Denny's, right? Finding your happy place. Denny's happens to be my happy place personally. I go dancing till 2, go to Denny's at 3. Happy, okay? So I would tie it in somehow, and by the time my essay's done, the reader would have no doubt that Finding Nemo is a metaphor for a single mom finding a path to a good future. When you talked about framework and you said framework is a conversation between self and audience, does that also include opinion between these two? No, we don't care about anyone's opinion but yours. Your perspective gets one opinion, and you're going to tell and prove your opinion is valid to your audience. We don't care about their opinion necessarily. You can address it in the framework if it makes you happy, so that it gives more context to the reader following along. Remember my example with the telephone, right? I told my reader there's a car accident so that you have a way to understand my voice and my tone. But I wasn't really talking to you. You were eavesdropping. Are our essays going to be about education leading up to a good job, or was what I said a good example? So right here is a version of 6 different essays, right? One about dancing, one about cooking, one about surfing, one about driving, one about obtaining a college degree, and one about traveling. What you talk about, I don't care. A's don't come from content, they come from structure. So however you understand it, what kind of knowledge or education does a person within a society have or need, and why is that useful? What 6 questions should you ask to set up the framework of your essay? If you've looked at the template, there are actually 10 things. Who, what, when, where, why, how, important, interesting, relevant, history, date, terms. That's 12 right there by itself. You don't need 12, you need at least 10. Before we write an essay, should we always plan it out? Yes, 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 yes. I call it spinning one triangle. This is my essay. That's my whole draft. Okay, from this, I have my thesis, my topic sentences, my transitional sentences. What else do I need? If it makes you feel better, you can spin your mini triangles and have your perfect paragraphs. That's the extent of an essay. This also happens to be the template for a speech. Okay, is a good thesis just to list our topics and our body paragraphs? A thesis has nothing to do with the body paragraphs. A thesis tells me in one sentence the provable reasons associated with your opinion It tells me what your topic sentences are going to be and the order they're going to be. It tells me the outline or the map to the essay. It might tell me what perspective and which audience you're speaking to and from. That's the point of the thesis. It goes at the end of the introduction. Your topic sentences follow those directions and introduce a broad subtopic that you're then going to prove with concrete examples. Can we use only one transition once per essay or multiple times per essay? Do you like it when somebody repeats themselves? I, or however. In the words packet, some of you picked that up, you'll notice that there's a whole transition list. I gave you a link, I think, in Module 2 of a transition list. You need to get to know transitions and use a whole variety of them. Let's see. Lecture 4, for each letter, part K, J, F, K, J, F, K, and R, you said topic sentence. So for only F part, would there be more than one topic sentence? First topic sentence, second topic sentence, third topic sentence. That's the difference between the three. How many pages are we supposed to write? I absolutely hate this question because it misses the whole point of the lecture. If you really want to figure it out, you can times 5 by 0.75, and that's going to give you a rough guesstimate of how many pages you need, right? You could do the math forward or backward. I don't dictate pages. I'm asking for a 5-paragraph essay that illustrates your knowledge of SOAP, the template, and the 5 principles of academic writing with provable evidence and correct citation, quotation, and works cited. That's what I'm expecting. One more lecture to go, and then we're done. I'll see you in a bit.